So then, I think it is safe to say that the garden has gotten away from me this year. Yep. And I am showing you this because it occurs to me that often taking pictures or filming with something as a pretty backdrop, and it's not really fully representative of my life or of what's going on. And I think it's really important that we resist the picture-perfect temptation. That as much as I love to see beauty created in the world, and as much as my soul is fed from that sort of image, the pretending that our whole lives are represented in that sort of gorgeous, Pinterest-worthy, everything's hunky-dory sort of way, I think that can be damaging. So, truth, everyone, dark side of the moon. Here it is. This in front of me. I know you can't possibly tell. This directly in front of me is my squash, my winter squash patch. And this year, I made a plan to grow a lot less. I felt like every year I was getting a little bit further and further behind in the garden, not catching up. I was feeling overwhelmed. There was a lot going on anyway. And I thought, you know what? This is the year that I'm going to join a CSA again, which we had a CSA years ago. But then when we moved, we stopped going to it because it was too far away. So this is the year that I'm going to join a CSA again. Get a lot of produce there. I'm going to concentrate on getting my front flower gardens in order. And I'm going to make the back gardens manageable. You see how well that has gone. I have planted definitely less than half of what I would normally plant area-wise of these gardens. Maybe as little as a third. I was going to plastic the beds that weren't in use. Didn't even get around to that. One of them got plasticked. The rest did not. Just to keep everything in check and make it more manageable. Usually we plant around 60 winter squash plants in giant beds. This year I think we planted 8. This is them. Under the grass. Look, there are some squash leaves and flowers there. I'm totally impressed with the collards. I mean, come on. Considering the conditions that they are growing in. That's impressive. Which is all credit, not to me, clearly, but all credit to friends of ours who grow organic starts and from whom we got those collards. And that's the only reason, because they had such a great start and they were so strong to begin with, that they are looking so fabulous. Also, they're quite full because it's hard to get back there to harvest from them. So, you know, this is not looking too bad. This, I don't know if you can tell because there's so much green in the background, but this is a raised bed built of logs that Ian built for me, and it has 3 blueberry bushes and a bunch of cranberries in it. And at the beginning of the year, I actually weeded and mulched this bed, and it's doing all right. There are weeds. There are totally weeds in this bed. But, yeah, There's totally weeds in this bed, as you can see. But it is generally not bad. And you can also see some, look. Can you see the tiny little cranberries? There's a cranberry. These are cranberry plants. All of this foliage here, they're actually a really neat little plant. Hard to transplant and hard to weed because they have really shallow roots and they just do not like to be disturbed. But yeah, look, there's a whole little clump of cranberries happening right there. There's a bunch of them about, so that's something. And this bed is not bad. But the 3 identical beds, or should be identical beds, look like jungle, just complete. You can barely even find the blueberries in them, never mind the cranberries. It's my shadow. Hi. And I'm probably going to end up killing the poor plants, which is not my intention. Aye. Yeah, well, there is the one bed we managed to plastic. We used an old tarp, which I was really on the fence about. And there's a 5-year-old little person trying to be disruptive, screaming at songs at the window. Another pile of rocks, you know me, piles of rocks everywhere at the moment. Again, not trip on it. The tarp, I was saying, I was really on the fence about the tarp and not feeling good about it, not wanting to put plastic onto the soil, not wanting anything to leach into the soil, worried about it breaking down. But then the whole concept of trying to get back in control of the garden for my own sanity's sake. And we had this giant tarp and it had holes in it, we could never use it, and it was just going to end up... I just got distracted because a toad, don't know where it went, just hopped by my foot. I was trying to see if I could find him to video him. Anyhow, I kind of had a friend talk me into it basically by, it was going to go into a dump. It was going to go into a landfill. Might as well get as much use out of it as possible. And that particular bed that I showed through the tree there, that's all blue, I wish it wasn't bright blue. I wish it was something more discreet, for sure. But I think we've given up on aesthetically pleasing back here at the moment anyway. Anyhow, that bed was totally full of bindweed. And I had tried to dig it all out in previous years, and I was not getting it all. And if you're familiar with bindweed, you'll know that it is very invasive, very aggressive, and very troublesome to all other plants. And it was starting to spread to other parts of the yard and other gardens, and it just something had to be done. So let's see. So these were leeks from last year that were so, the feel of these. Pom-poms. They were so frozen in the ground when I went to harvest some, just this one row of leeks last year. By the time I went to harvest them, that I couldn't get them out, so I just cut off the tops and used the leeks like that, and they regrew from there. And I left them because my neighbor says that frying up the flower heads is really a delicious treat. But I think I've actually I left them for that, and then I never ended up cooking them. And I think they're getting a little past that point. This little stinker in here. Doesn't want to focus. See the Japanese beetle? So, in an effort to get on top of things there as well, Japanese beetles have been awful this year, and they're awful most years. That's in their nature, correct? And so I've been paying my younger kids 25 cents for every 2 beetles that they jump into a jar of soapy water. I feel like the mafia or something. Like I'm these bugs. They're a threat to the family. You know, they're a threat to our food. They're a threat to the family. And I'm like, I am financing mass murder. I actually don't feel great about it, because I am really that sensitive and, I don't know, maybe silly that a pest in the garden. I don't like the death of anything, I just don't. But they were taking over and it was getting really awful, and now it's pretty much under control because the kids are all about making money, and there were so many of them that they figured out that they could actually make a decent profit. I amount $20 already, and I just told them this a few days ago. So they are making their way. I can hear my big boys just got home from work. They're so loud. You can tell from like way hundreds of feet away when they're home. They're home. I am seeing something really beautiful blooming back there that I can't even get to. I don't know what it is and I can't get to it. Oh, it looks like it might be an evening primrose. I don't think you can see it at all with the camera, but goodness gracious. Okay, so this bed was going to be my cut flower bed. See how stunningly well that went. I was going to have a cut flower bed this year for just the joy of it. And despite having grown so much less this year, I still know that I've lost so much ground, because last year I remember laying in the path, which should be right there underneath these lilies, when they were in bloom. You can't even see the path. So, lost loads of ground. And it should be noted that Ian, who is a complete powerhouse at these things, helped me a ton in the garden in the beginning of the year. And we had an entire work party of friends over here. A group of friends decided to do garden work parties and take turns at each other's houses. And okay, sweetheart. Okay. And go to each other's houses and get work done. And I had a full, a whole big group of adults here who got the garden really in great shape at the beginning of the season. And I've still managed to let it slip this far. That was Serafina calling out. Mari and Galen are doing a grain-free pancake taste test. They made 3 different varieties inside right now. The house is probably full of smoke. They've made 3 different varieties, and everybody's tasting them to see which variety they like the best. And Serafina was calling out the window to say she liked the most recent one the best. This was a big bed of sunflowers. There are still some sunflowers here, but we had deer come in and eat the tops off of a lot of them. A whole lot of them. And clearly they weren't really well cared for either. Look at this teeny tiny one. So cute. And not in focus because I can't get that close. Oh well. We had sunflowers popping up everywhere this year because we have sunflower seeds in our chicken feed, and Serafina would sometimes try to feed the birds or feed the chickens in funny places or whatever may be the case, and all of a sudden there are these sunflowers growing everywhere in the weirdest places. Beans, also eaten down by deer, also in need of a weed and a drink and a mulch and all sorts. There's peaches. The kale's doing pretty well. Could use a weed. It's doing pretty well. It was somewhat mulched early in the season. It was never finished being mulched, but was somewhat mulched. Turnips and carrots in this bed, hard to tell. These though are these Japanese baby turnips that we just love. They're really lovely, and they grow well even in abusive conditions. So lucky for us. Yeah. Garlic, haven't managed to get it out of the ground yet. It's ready. This bed is calendula and tomatoes and parsley in this bed as well. And weeds, lots and lots of weeds. And the tomatoes haven't been staked, and they are laying on the ground. It's not good. There are certain plants that get kind of amnesty in our yard, and one of them is the milkweed, unless, because we have a massive amount of monarch butterflies come through here, and I actually call this the monarch nursery at this time of year. So I let it grow unless it's actively in the way of a food crop. And I did not get around to actually weeding this bed, and I probably would have pulled these. I probably would have pulled these, but they are now completely covered in caterpillars. There's loads of them. There's probably 20 in this bed. And I'm being asked more and more questions, so I should probably go, but I have this pretty little spot and all this mess and confusion. I didn't get to show you the rest of the garden, but I'm being summoned. Of the echinacea, the purple cone flowers, and the milkweed, and behind is my sweet peas, which are so big and so huge right now that they are collapsing the support that Elijah made them, and they're just tumbling out of everywhere, and they need to be deadheaded. Better yet, they need it to be brought inside to go in vases, which they were not. Yeah, so there's some loveliness still. And there's some food. There's a lot of food. I don't know that there will be a month from now, but there is some food right now. If I keep neglecting it, I don't know if that will remain so. There's raspberries over there. And here we have more of our little buddies. Yeah. So many that time of year. Well, I hope this made you feel better about your own garden. Because it's probably in a better state than mine. There's actually exciting and lovely and wonderful things going on in my front garden. But I will save that for another day, which is much better shape, the front garden. I'll save that for another day. I hope you're well, and I will talk to you soon.